Good morning, YouTube friends and family, and welcome to today's edition of the Wellness Homesteader. Now, pay no attention to all the junk in the background and the fact that I still might have bubble wrap on my windows. I hope you all stayed safe through the storm surge. I saw some pretty frightening videos, so you are in my thoughts and prayers. We didn't get a lot of anything. We had thunderstorms and some wind, but nothing highly damaging or anything like that. It was 66 degrees here yesterday, and tonight it's gonna snow. Y'all, I think old man winter is like, ha ha, gotcha, April Fools. So I thought today might be a fun day to talk a little bit about my top 5 tips for feeding your seedlings. We've planted, they're growing, now what? So I hope you'll stay tuned. So just to give you a little peek, I'm just going to grab one here. My tomato plants are going gangbusters. So when I plant about a month from now, my tomatoes, and I have some that are bigger than this, are definitely bigger or as big as what you would buy like in a big box store. So, sorry. Prior to deciding on fertilizer, you must hiccup at least once. I hope y'all are laughing with me. That's why I always have my water. So let's talk a little bit about, okay, now what? I've planted a seed, it's sprouted. When do I start feeding? What should I feed? What's good, what isn't good, etc. So anytime, and y'all, I apologize about the state of this bottle, but it's a messy fertilizer. Anytime you buy a fertilizer, you're going to see 3 numbers. So the 5 is the nitrogen, the P is the phosphorus, and the third one is potassium. Sorry, nurse words going out, the K. So what is most important, and how do you know which fertilizer to choose? Guys, there's a lot of good fertilizers out there. I am a big fan for my seedlings of using fish fertilizer or fish emulsion. This is Alaska. Great for all indoor and outdoor plants. For organic gardening won't burn. That's its advertisement. But, okay, so there's these numbers. How do we know what are the best numbers? Because let me show you something, y'all. I'm also a big fan of Fox Farm. This is a 284. This one is a 0.5, 0.7. Wait, what? And this one is a 644. And it does have a tomato on it. So should I use this one first? So I think there's a lot of confusion. And after we've put all the time and the energy and the money and the effort, I mean, this has been kind of months in the making. I'm about 6 weeks in, or well, maybe a little longer than that on my seedlings. So yeah, maybe more like 2 months. So what is the most important of the numbers? Well, the first one, the nitrogen. That is what your seedling will need. And we're going to talk about when do you start feeding and how much, etc. It will help the top to grow, and it will also help the plant to put on more leaves. We know tomatoes are high nitrogen users, so I definitely am a fan of fertilizing. Now, I left them in the Arrow Garden for like a month, but I was using Arrow Garden seedling feed, so I was okay there. It's good if the other 2 numbers are low, and we're going to talk about what does that really look like. The second tip I have is don't burn your plants, y'all. Ask me how I know. So you want to fertilize at half strength. So for example, a little fuzzy there. This particular fish fertilizer says 2 tablespoons for a gallon of water. And well, I think that's what it says. At any rate, I used about a teaspoon in a quart. So that is a very low dose of nitrogen. Using a good soil to start will really help you and help your plants get off to a healthy start. But as that plant grows, its nutritional needs are going to grow as well. So if your plants start to turn yellow, if they're not growing well, if they're not putting on new leaves, then you can kind of experiment. So a plant that is as big, I do not want to dump this, and I'm good about dumping things. Let me try to just lift up a hole. Okay, so here is a flat of my strawberries. Now, I just watered. I'm not sure why that one looks like that, but it may need a little more sunlight. And we have dirt. So if they're yellow, if they're not growing, slightly increase. So maybe instead of a teaspoon, do a teaspoon and a half per quart of water. This just happens to be a quart. Watering can is why I keep saying quart. Tip number 3. Okay, so now we have all these various numbers, and some of them are fairly close. Let me pull this one. So this is a 511, and this is a Grow Big 644. So which of these two are better to start your seedlings off with? Well, you want all of the numbers below a 5. So I think the fish emulsion, I've never burned plants with fish emulsion. I think this is a great start, or something comparable. Now, as big as my tomatoes are, oh, that's the wrong one. I could probably go to a 644 without harming anything, but they're doing really well on a 511. I know this sounds like some kind of math class, right? So, I highly recommend a fish emulsion. I've always had good success. Last year is when I really got into diligently feeding with fish emulsion in the seedling stage, and I had the best garden, which was partly due to weather and attention to the garden, but I had the best garden I've ever had. All right, number 4. So I'm showing you liquids. Why can't I just use the granules, because they're going to continuously feed, and I won't have to worry about, oh, did I feed them, and when, are they getting enough? I highly recommend you either use a liquid that you put in water or a water-soluble powder, granule. I hate to even say Miracle Grow, but that's what comes to mind, the blue powder that will dissolve really quickly. So why is that? Well, granules are very slow release. So your plant is not going to get the nutrition that it needs immediately. When you use a liquid, within 24 hours, that plant has uptaken, so to speak, those nutrients, and they are available and they're able to use them already. Where a granule, it's so slow release, it may be all over for your plant before it gets to the nutrition. And y'all, once you put it in there, it's in there, right? So you can't really get the granules back out, so to speak. But if you do a low, slow feeding, then you will have the liquid. Once the liquid evaporates, some nutrients are left behind, but it's easy to flush a plant if you do get too much fertilizer. I do have talking notes, y'all. I get talking and then I can't remember. So the granules. Do I ever use granules? I absolutely do. So as large as my plants are, I will probably go ahead and top dress all my beds. What do I mean by top dress? Basically, I'll weed the beds. I'll, turn them all over, smooth them all out, put a little bit of granular fertilizer. I buy the organic fertilizer from Azure Standard, and I'll share that a little later in the season, but I'll go ahead and work that in, and then my plants should be big enough by then that will be okay to go ahead and start feeding a little heavier. So how much do you feed and when do you feed? I think those are the biggest questions I had at first, because I did not want to burn up all my hard work. So the easiest thing to do, guys, is just create a regimen. You know, what are you going to do? What days are best for you? So about every 10 to 14 days, once your plants have at least their second set or third set of leaves. So for the first 2 weeks, you don't feed your seedlings. You want to let them get into the soil, absorb the nutrients, and by then they're going to be hungry for some nitrogen. Then you want to start feeding. Now, I have found personally that I can even sometimes go once a week, but the important piece here is don't feed, wait a month, double feed, because you can burn your plants and you're going to create a weakened plant start that is not going to produce as well as if it was steadily fed, just like me. So my final tip is don't overwater. You know, I have to water every day the seedlings because I'm using a potting soil that has a lot of vermiculite, so it dries out very quickly. My vessels that my plants are in are very well drained, and well, it's not been running the last few days, but the heat's going to be running, and they're sitting on warming mats. So all of those things will contribute to soil dryness. What you don't want to do is keep those roots so wet that you end up with root rot, with the fungus, with a problem that is going to jeopardize the health of your plant. So let me give you just a little pan over. Oh, before we do that, so how am I going to use some of these? So the grow big will be really good once I get those tomatoes in the ground. I can start using grow big. I can still use the fish emulsion as well, but this is a little higher in nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium. The Buds and Blooms, it's a phosphorus fertilizer that contains nitrogen to support vigorous growth. It has a low pH. It can be used for hydroponic and soil. When used as directed, it may encourage abundant fruit, flower, and multiple bud development. So the Buds and Bloom is a later type fertilizer, and it's a 284. So the big number is the phosphorus. And will this work well for tomatoes? It'll probably work better on the flowers. I have used this, and it will make things bloom. Now, the Big Bloom concentrate is made from earthworms, castings, and bat guano, or bat poo. And it's supposed to support multiple bloom and seed formulations, supplies nutrients that your plant can access immediately. Another good one, maybe when it's a little later in the season, you've had your first bloom, you want to pinch things back, you want to encourage growth. Do you need all of them? Well, if one doesn't work, I will try another. So I like having the option of having different formulations. It's always good if you can reference a gardening book and find out what nutrient, whatever you're trying to grow, is the most utilized. For example, nitrogen in tomatoes. All right, guys, I want to show you my plants. So let me stand up, reposition the camera, and then that's going to be it for today. I'm hoping on Saturday I want to show you something new. And we might do a little healthy cooking. All right, guys, stay tuned. Okay, y'all, without disturbing, this is a flower doing very, very well. The ones in the back, I kind of have to rotate out, but I do have, you know, some that aren't doing as well as others, but for the most part, these are the strawberry tomatoes. This big leaf is a hollyhock. These are Amish paste. I have a small tray of sweet peppers. They all have 3 sets of leaves. Those have been the slowest to grow. And I already said the black strawberry cherry. These are Sugar Rush peach. And this is all, that might all be tomatoes. Where are my jalapenos? Oh, this is half jalapeno, half sugar rush peach. I am thrilled, y'all, with the amount of growth and the healthy nature of my plants. You know, I think when you enjoy it, and I'm enjoying it, um, it doesn't seem so much like work. And there's something so magical about planting. If you've ever seen a tomato seed, you know, when you eat a tomato, planting a seed and ending up with something that's going to bear fruit. I mean, it's technically a fruit that's going to bear some edible things for you all summer long. I mean, how amazing is that, right? So I think that's going to be it for today. I hope you've enjoyed this. If there's other gardening tips and tricks you want to hear about, I am not a gardening expert. I've just had a lot of experience doing it, and I still sometimes have epic fails. But I think this year is going to be a lot easier from one respect. I have a fence around the garden that will keep the chickens out because they did destroy a few things last year, but you know, I'm willing to share a little bit. That's why you overplant. Hit me up if you need a tomato plant. Just teasing. All right, guys, I will see you Saturday. Do me a big favor. Go ahead and smash that like button. Drop me a comment below. How are your seedlings doing if you're going to garden this year? Maybe you're just going to purchase your seedlings, and that's fine too, because I'll probably purchase a few myself. All right, guys, until I see you again, be well, be healthy, be blessed, and take care.